Well, today is December 18th. It's 3:08. It's getting dark. 3 days to winter solstice. Well, I want to tell the story about a bear. It's another bear story. And this story only happened this last summer. Last July, I believe. Yeah, last July. Maybe the end of June, but right in there anyway, last of June, 1st of July. So I went to this place. I've been there. I had been there before. There was an old abandoned trailer that sits there. Now this where I went is like 70 miles out of Fairbanks and 10 miles off the road, up over a big mountain. I mean, and then down off the other side. But when you go up, it's a big old mountain. But when you drop off the other side, you come to a creek, but you don't lose as much altitude because you're up in the mountains and the creek's running down out of the mountains. Once I was driving in there, and I seen some movement, and it was a wolf, and I watched him. He came up the valley, and he took off. He took off running when he seen me, though, and I watched him till I couldn't see him no longer, And I had my rifle with me, and I thought about, well, I could see if I could shoot him, but it was in the summertime, and the fur wasn't any good, so there was no way it was like going to shoot at it, So anyway, that was back 5 years ago or something like that. So this summer, I stayed in that old trailer the summer before for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks or something, and I'd cleaned it out and stuff like that. And I'd had me an air mattress sitting in there. I only used 1/3 of the trailer. The second room was big and it wasn't too bad, but I didn't sleep in there. I just did all my stuff in the very first trailer where the door was at. It had windows, on 3 sides of it on the far end of the trailer, the part that I was staying in, But the weather wasn't really good, It was a little unsettled, and every afternoon it'd start raining, and it wasn't the fact of the rain, but it lightning a little bit too, And so I would just quit and go back up there and cook some food, and eat, and then I'd take a nap. So actually, I want to give you some more background on this place. So 2 years ago, or the summer before last summer, I stayed there from all of July and probably a full week or so into August, and the leaves were all falling off the trees by then. The ones that they were all turning colors and all that, but a lot of it hit the ground already by the end of the first week of August, if you can believe that. So anyway, this place is kind of a weird place, and like I said, it's way off in the boondocks, way away from any civilization. You can't even pick up a radio station. At least I haven't yet, anyway, and I've tried. So, I'm not too much of a scary type of a person, like, boo, that scared me, So, but this place is kind of a weird place. The wind's always blowing. The creek's running, like, a brook, and it's making a lot of noise going down. And like I said, the wind blows and stuff, And if you're being really still, and you would listen, it sounded like people talking. You could almost hear it. You would think that somebody was talking just out, but they're far enough away that you couldn't understand them, but they were talking, But there wasn't nobody around, I mean, I stayed there two or three times for 10 days and never saw anybody else, But other times there was people around. So anyway, I go back there again this year. And I noticed how it changed. That if you be real still with the wind blowing and the creek making noise and all this, it didn't sound like people talking anymore. It sounded like people singing, but singing way off somewhere where you couldn't hear them, So, I'm good with it. I know there wasn't nobody around, but so I don't get too shook up about stuff like that. As long as I know what's going on. And well, anyway, so I took off and I went dredging real early in the morning, but the sun doesn't, it doesn't get dark. The sun's only down for a couple hours. It's coming right back up, And I'd always wake up real early in the morning. I'm sure sometimes I was at the creek at 4 o'clock in the morning, because the sun's coming around. And I'm like, man, I better get up, get around, get down there and do a little dredging. So anyway, I went down and done some dredging, and it started raining, and the wind was blowing a little bit. So I went back up to that old trailer, and I cooked up some food. I had some sausage and bacon, eggs, or something, and heated it all up and ate that. And I had, I had an air mattress, and I had my sleeping bag, and I'd throw it up on top of my air mattress. So behind my head is two windows. One of them had black. They were both covered, and that's at this end. But the windows on down the short side of the cabin, and then around on the other side of the old trailer, those were windows too. These were open, but these two were blocked, and the two behind me were blocked. But one of the pieces of shade had fell down, so that one window was exposed. But that window must have had broken at some time, and it was a piece of plexiglass. Somebody put a piece of plexiglass in it, where all the rest of the windows were glass. So, like I said, I'd ate some food, and I'd got my sleeping bag, and I was laying on that air mattress, and had my head all cocked up and stuff, and I always carry one of them little bitty pocket Bibles, and I don't know how many days I've had it out, and went camping and different things, and I never even looked at it, but this trip, I already knew there was no there's no cell phone service, no nothing. So I left my phone in my pickup truck, and I think I stayed 12 days that time alone. I seen a few people a couple different days, talked to a couple people a couple times. So anyway, gosh, I almost forgot where I'm at in my story. Like I said, I'd eaten, and I'm laying there reading this little pocket Bible, the New Testament, seeing what Jesus was going on with him and all that, And about that time, it sounded like something was growling at me, just a growling noise. It wasn't steady, it just growled and stopped, then growled some more. But I didn't hear nothing else. No rustling, no popping, like the bears can pop their teeth. And, no woofing, no nothing, just a growl. And, and I wasn't too worried about it, because you hear all kinds of stuff. Like I said, it was raining, the wind would gust every once in a while, a little bit of brush would, touch the trailer, and you could hear the brush raking it back and forth on itself, And that year also, last fall, the fall before, it got cold pretty fast. So some of the sticks or the limbs on the brush and stuff died last fall, because the sap didn't go down fast enough, and they froze. So they had dead limbs in some of them. Some of the green brush had dry dead sticks in them. So I read a little bit, and I heard that growling, and then everything got quiet for a few minutes. Like I said, wind was blowing and such, and I went to sleep. Well, and I had my gun laying right beside my head, just where I could just reach and grab it. And that window was like 2.5 feet above my head. And while I was asleep in there, and I wasn't fully, like deep sleeping, like if you're, like you do sometimes, just kind of a light sleeping. And all of a sudden, I heard this scratch on that plexiglass above my head. Just a single scratch. And that was it. And then the wind had blown right about that time too. I thought, man, that wind is getting strong, because it really blew that brush into that window, and it kind of sounded like dry sticks or something. It raked it, And so I thought, surely that wasn't a bear, because I was thinking about hearing that growling earlier, And my four-wheeler was sitting just right outside the door, which was in less than 10 foot from that window. And as I laid there, I thought, I opened my eyes, and I looked at my pistol, and then I shut my eyes again, and I said, as long as it ain't bothering nothing, and it's not chewing the tires off my four-wheeler, because my knees are so bad. There's no way can I walk 10 miles back to the highway. You know, I would just had to. Even if I broke down somewhere coming in or going out, I'm camping right where I break down until somebody comes and gets me. Or I find somebody. So I never heard another sound. And I got up that evening and ate some more food and stuff. But by that time, instead of the sun shining on that side of the trailer, which was the east side, it had come around behind the trailer. Now it's shining in the western sky, which is on the other side of the trailer. Those windows were blocked, so blocked out. So maybe it'd help you sleep. If you were didn't want a whole bunch of sun shining in on you. And I ate stuff and I didn't notice anything, and later on that evening I just laid down and I went to sleep. So the next morning I wake up, the sun's coming around and I could see that sun shining through that piece of plexiglass. And I'm sitting in a chair with the table on this side of me and my cook stove and stuff and the counter and the sink and stuff right there in that old trailer. And I look right above where my head was, 2.5 feet higher than my head, and nothing there but just a little thin piece of plexiglass. There was a bare paw print, and it scratched over to the side a couple of inches, and then it went down as it come off of the window. It made a little mark down, and it came, So that there was a bear. It was growling at me. It came around the trailer. I guess stood up and looked down at me. Apparently, with that one paw on that window, scratched just a little bit and dropped as he dropped back down. And I guess he walked between the trailer and my four-wheeler and went on about his business. I never saw or heard another thing. But I thought, man, oh man, wasn't that something that I did? I wasn't even sure that I even heard the growling. That it could have been something else or something. But I knew it was a kind of a strange, a noise that I hadn't heard from there before, or around there before. So I should have known better, But the next morning when I got up and I could see the physical evidence, I was only through the wall. The walls of that little camper trailer is only probably 2.5 inches wide or something like that, So that put me pretty doggone close to that bear. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I've got some more stories. If you want to hear them, just come back to YouTube and I'll tell you one. All right, you have a good evening.